Garza Law, Tennessee Baseball Extra Innings. Will Heflin with you here. Presented by the Garza Law Firm, online at garzalaw.com. Call in 865-200-5402, TLD Logistics Hotline. We're live after every SEC series finale. Spread the word. We're live at tclub.team, X Spaces, Twitch, and now YouTube is up and running. Again, I am Will Heflin. Tennessee just finished a 3-game series against Auburn in which parts of 2 games were played in both Saturday and Sunday. Played half an inning Friday in the monsoon. Finished Friday's game yesterday. Started Saturday's game. Could have finished, but it needed extra innings. Tennessee finished that one today in walk-off fashion, winning in the 11th. And we're just beat 8-1 in a 7-inning finale. Give me just a second as we get up spaces and all the stuff. We got spaces running? All right. Tony's bouncing out of here, going to let me run the show on my own today. So if we run into any technicalities, bear with me. 865-200-5402, TLD Logistics Hotline. We're going to take your calls. I'm Will Heflin. You know, I think the worst part about this is that I'm in a better mood this week than I was last week, and that's worrisome because we've seen this song and dance multiple times before. It started with the doubleheader against A&M. You lost a rubber match against Kentucky a couple weeks ago. Now you've lost a rubber match against Auburn. That Auburn team's gritty. I don't want to take anything away from them. They're tough. They're probably a top 10 team, but they're not better than you at any position except for right field. Ike Irish is a dog. No disrespect to Reese Chapman, but Ike Irish is a first-rounder. I'm not even sure where to begin. I guess the easiest place to begin would be Tony finally had enough and got out of there. The umpiring this weekend was atrocious, but it's been atrocious across the league. The A&M LSU series, if you've kept up with that, it's been horrible over there. I'm not going to beat a dead horse on that. You've got to just deal with it. Play the cards you're dealt. But I just really don't understand how momentum is not a thing when you win in walk-off fashion with phenomenal at-bat after phenomenal at-bat to win Game 2 and force a rubber. And then you just come out like, do they not understand how this works? How momentum is, especially at home? That made no sense to me. How in 30 minutes you can just completely lose every bit of momentum that you had from a walk-off victory. I guess word of the day is flat because I didn't see any fight today, and I'm not going to sit here and beat up the players because I love them and want them to do well, but collectively as a team, that's just not acceptable. Absolutely not acceptable from a top program playing at home with really the season hanging in the balance right now. It really is, and I feel like we've been on repeat the last couple weeks. I just don't understand how it's continuing to go down this road. And I'm sure everybody's going to talk about Friday, starting that game in the rain. Yeah, they shouldn't have. You burned Liam Doyle's start, but he was able to come back and get you a win today. And here I am thinking okay, this is the weird thing that we needed to happen for momentum. And it wasn't dang 30 minutes later. It was like, nope, that wasn't it. Maybe it's something else. This is Extra Innings presented by Garza Law. Do a quick ad break. Come right back and take some calls. I'll be right back.
Get you back to the action here momentarily. It's Garza Law. Extra Innings presented by Marcos Garza and your Garza Law firm. Online at GarzaLaw.com. Marcos and his team are your go-to law firm for a myriad of disciplines. When it comes to DUI defense, criminal defense, personal injury, Social Security, or disability, you want to deal with folks that are of, by, and for our community. People that you will see in Lindsey Nelson Stadium when the Vols are playing baseball the rest of the spring and into the summer. Treating clients like family. Don't you dare trust anybody else. Available 24/7 at GarzaLaw.com. Also presented by our friends at VIP Play. Now, Will tell you more in coming shows about VIP Play, but rest assured, big changes are coming in the gambling space. VIP Play will be here. The Eagle will land shortly. Must be 21 and over in the state of Tennessee to place a bet, and you will check out more there. Also, a special shout out today to our friends at Rather and Kittrell. RKCapital.com. Start planning your future today at RKCapital.com. Personalized financial planning, disciplined investment strategy, ongoing guidance and partnership. RK Capital can help you in so many ways. And we're also presented by our friends at Calhoun's. Calhoun's, your taste of Tennessee. Leave the cooking to us all baseball season long. When you're getting together for your Tennessee watch parties, Calhoun's is a wonderful thing. When you want to grab something to or from the ballpark, it's always fresh. It's always going to be wonderful. It's available for pickup near you. And remember, Friday home games mean we're live, and Will be with us some down at Calhoun's on the river. It's phenomenal. Like Hunter Ensley says, Calhoun's, we're champions feast. Or does he say we're champs feast? At any rate, it's the taste of Tennessee. Now let's get back to more on our TLD Logistics phone line. Online at tldlogistics.com. And we'll get you back to our host with the most, the superstar on Garza Law. Extra Innings.
Welcome back in. Garza Law, Extra Innings. You heard it from TB himself. I'm Will Heflin. We're going to hit the phones. Extra Innings, you are on the air.
Hey, Will, it's Parker in Hardin Valley.
Hey, Parker.
I was sort of chastised by my friends when I sort of threw up I don't want to say a red flag, but a yellow flag after the A&M series, because something just told me that could have a big domino effect on this team. And I think it's proven out that my fears weren't unfounded and they weren't ridiculous. Because since that A&M series, this has not been the same team. And I don't know, I mean, I'm not there in the clubhouse, of course, like you were. But it seems to me that what is lacking on this team is leadership, a real serious alpha personality. And I mean a dog alpha personality. Last year in that Florida State game, the first game of the College World Series, in the ninth inning when Tennessee's down and they had to walk it off. Christian Moore gets down, I think, with 2 strikes and looks back into the dugout and just, with the most serious look on his face, says, "Let's fight. Let's fight." And by gosh, that team went and did it. And I don't know if we have any of those kind of leaders on this team. Do we have talent? We have a lot of talent. There is no question at all the amount of talent that we have. But I just don't think that they have any kind of leadership like that. Let's face it, if Simo and Blake were here, that series against LSU last week would have ended up in the LSU dugout with what was going on. They wouldn't have taken it. And it seems like we sat and we took it just like Paul Maneri's last team when they came up here in the Supers back in, I guess, 2021 and just got bent over the barrel. That seems like what this team has become. And they need to man up and I don't know if it's possible at this point, and get some leaders to go out there and fight everybody tooth and nail. So, hey, Will, I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks to Tony for giving you this platform.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call, Parker. Need some fight. That's what it comes down to. Need some fight. And, I don't think it's fair to anybody to say you need a CMO, but you need a bunch of dang guys who are willing to act like that. And it's little things like that that do go a long way, and we're just not seeing collective fight. One run on a Sunday in a rubber match? We're not even close right now. Not even close. Garza Law, you're on the air.
Hey, Will, Jake from Memphis. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Jake. I'm all right, buddy. How are you?
I'm all right, too. I'm actually feeling much worse this week than last week just because this is at home. And
Three straight at home.
Yeah, I mean, another chance another opportunity where you just in your heart of hearts knew they were going to come out with their hair on fire. I felt like we were going to run rule in this game, and they almost run ruled us. And I just wonder, on one hand, I wonder, well, maybe they're too amped up. Maybe they want it too bad, and it's, just creating bad play. But I have seen, and not so much today, but over the course of the series and the past few weeks, I can't recall the last time I've seen so many batters for us strike out looking. It's maddening. I'm just like somebody want to swing the bat, want to swing the ball and get that run, get that. That's been the most maddening part for me is I want to say that they just want it too much. They're overhyped up for these rubber matches, but then I see them just look at strikes and not even swing. And I don't know. I mean, I think this team clearly, up until this point, plays better on the road. So maybe it's good for this team to have to do what 23 did and go, make it on the road because it's trending that way. I mean, I don't think we're going to be hosting at this point. So maybe that's what this team needs is some road games in the postseason.
Well, I agreed with you up until there. I don't know how much that would help us right now. Auburn from Friday's guy on Dutton, who was really good, but he doesn't have the best stuff in the world. They were like, we are not going to give you free bases. We're going to go, if it's deep in the count and you've fouled off a couple breaking balls, we're going fastball in on the hands, challenge city. And it just froze us. Over and over and over and over and over. I'm with you. I would rather see them chasing balls, over swinging, trying too hard than. I just don't understand where the timidness would even come from. At this point, cut it loose. You know what I mean? I could understand the A&M one, but this one. Let me ask you this: of the three that they've lost at home. A&M, Kentucky, Auburn, have any of those days ended and you felt like, wow, that team may be a little bit more talented than us?
No. I mean, I will say I was very impressed with Auburn's lineup this series. I mean, I felt like every guy that came up in the box, I was kind of afraid of the way they were hitting and the way we were pitching. And on the other side of it, Frank was your coach, so and you know better than anyone. I have to imagine all of these walks are driving him crazy because it's driving me crazy, so I know it's driving him crazy. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that too, Will. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate the time. Go Vols.
Yeah, man, good call. it's got to be driving him up a wall. I mean, he's just not used to it. So I don't know what to tell you there. But yeah, it's weird, and just collectively complementary baseball is a thing, similar to football. If you've got an offense that's holding the ball, just wearing on a defense, and your defense is over there sipping water, drinking Gatorade, whatever they want to do to get ready, it helps them, right? And then, for Tennessee, it's like quick innings offensively, and then you go out there and it's like the leadoff guy is on way too often. Either a walk or a single. I mean, a lot of hits given up with 2 strikes. You just need to see guys start ripping the thing. And again, I'm okay with losing with your best punch, but it seems timid right now, and I really don't understand. Extra innings, you're on the air.
Hey, Will, thanks again for being in there. I was at the game today, and I'll tell you what, I got a couple points that I don't think really show up on the scoreboard. And after watching this whole season up to date, a couple things seem to be pretty apparent to me. One, I'm a big karma guy, and things happen for a reason. And this is the absolute first real adversity I can remember that Vitello's had in his career. And it's just I watch him. I spend a lot of time watching him in the dugout. He's a fireball, all that stuff. And I watch him, and it looks. I bet if you gave him truth serum and no one could hear him, I bet he hates this season. I bet he loves the kids, but the stadium didn't go as he thought. The student thing, Tony was right. It's changed the dynamic there, and students don't want to stand up. And then this team, his best teams reflect perhaps you, perhaps some other guys. They reflect him. This team does not reflect him by any stretch, and I think it's driving him crazy. Second of all, I wasn't that impressed with Auburn. I haven't been impressed with a team yet we've played with against, except for A&M. I just think they're overwhelmingly talented. But every other team, I think we're playing ourselves, and I think we're playing our head. And I think we're losing the battle against ourselves. Auburn's okay. LSU's pretty good. And I know they're top 5, but but so are we. I haven't seen a team except for A&M that I think, and maybe Arkansas coming up, that has just been absolutely loaded, and they got to the slow start. But I want to point out one series of events that happened yesterday that just epitomizes this whole streak, and see if you saw it the same way I did. So they've been trying to hide Curley's glove, no offense to him, for about a month and a half. So he gets a weak dribbler to second base yesterday, and he just goes full Steve Sachs. So you got a guy in first. Guy heads off, steals second. Peebles, to his credit, puts a BB on Keelan, and Keelan doesn't make the tag. Guy steals third. Peebles again puts a BB right on Marin. Marin goes to the bag and trips over his own feet. Then we have a wild pitch. That series of plays just epitomizes the past month and a half where we just can't get out of our own way. Can it be turned around? It can be turned around. But I think a big problem with this team, and I'm not calling out anybody, these are wonderful players, incredible athletes. But I think a big problem with this team is that your two guys that were cowbells before the beginning of the season, Curley and Snead, are just fighting it. Curley can't get it out of his own way, and Snead can't get anybody out. And it's tough because Vitello is so emotional. He's so loyal. He has his guys, and he's going to run his guys out there, and I totally get it. But these guys are the leaders, and they're just not doing what Christian Moore, Blake Burke, Trey Lipscomb, Beck, those guys did. And maybe it's unfair to compare those guys. But we can turn it around. I don't know, going on the road or staying home is the greatest thing. But I'd like your thoughts, because this team is unbelievably talented. I truly believe that. But it just doesn't have that moxie that the past Vitello teams. I'm on my phone away from the radio, so if I could stay on to hear your answer, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no problem. Thanks for the call. I think it's fair when you look at where those guys are projected to be drafted and the roles they were kind of assigned to begin the year. That comes with the territory. But Snead is really tough for me to figure out right now. I mean, I just don't understand how your stuff can be that good, and you just cannot get the baseball by anybody. Spinning it, throwing it as hard as you can, nothing's working for him. He's not missing barrels. And that's a real problem because he has to be one of your guys you can lean on because it's leverage moments are going to come about in this deal, and Tennessee has been abysmal in leverage moments. I mean, aside from the one win today, it's either been kind of like Game 2 went, or you jumped out and you kind of led the whole way. And so you're only going to be able to throw Doyle one game in a regional, the first game of a super if you get there. And then you feel good with Phillips, and AJ's still working his way back. But, the bullpen has got to be better. And we talked about it last week. Loy being extended was something we wanted to see. That was a huge bright spot, and you ended up winning that game. But, Krenzel's talented. He wasn't good at all today. Snead is way too talented to be, this ineffective for the last couple weeks. Franklin has been okay, not awful, but he's too talented to even allow as much traffic as he has. I mean, the guy throws 100 miles an hour. You're going to have outings where guys get you, but when your stuff is that good, there should be days that when you come in, it's just over for the other team. And it's like the opposite of over for the other team. It's on when those guys come in lately, which is very curious. I don't understand it. I've said that multiple times today, but I don't. There is still time to get it fixed, but time's running out, and you want to talk about an opponent next weekend coming in to try to get some things worked out. I mean, Vanderbilt's about as frustrating as they come when you're Tennessee. So maybe it'll be like 23, and that'll be a series win that Tennessee can lean on for momentum if they're able to win it. But Vanderbilt is going to play their game similar to Kentucky, where they get on base and force pressure, and they've got some good lefties. And who was it? Cade Fisher that came in today for Auburn and just completely shut the door. So that was my thing with Auburn. Is they're a good, solid group, but none of their arms wow you. And Tennessee left 25 guys on base. No 2-out hitting. Not able to string together runs. The power has completely went away. We don't hit homers anymore. Just hit it off the top of the wall. Tennessee's got to hit home runs. That's how the offense is constructed. I mean, and you can say, oh, well, you need to win in other ways, but that's that's like asking Army to win by throwing the ball. It's just that's not how Tennessee is. They hit home runs. But I really appreciate the call. We're going to take a quick break. Come back. We've got a couple callers on the line. Do have one line open if you want to call us. TLD Logistics Hotline, 865-200-5402. You heard in the last break about VIP Play. That is Wednesday. Wednesday, VIP Play launches. I'm extremely excited about it. It's going to be a phenomenal sports book. Best customer service, headed up by yours truly. We're going to have 200-plus leagues to bet on. Daily specials with our partners around the area. Tony B being one of the main ones. Tony B has been phenomenal, not just to me, but to VIP Play. And, it's going to be a good betting experience, and the app is phenomenal. You got to have a good app to compete in this space. But 21 and older, as always, got to be in Tennessee to bet. If you have a gambling problem, call the Red Line. Be right back. This is Extra Innings presented by Garza Law. I'm Will Heflin.
We appreciate you listening to Garza Law Extra Innings presented by Marcos Garza, your Garza Law firm. We'll get you back to the action here momentarily. Portions today, presented by our friends at TLD Logistics. Online at tldlogistics.com. So much more than a trucking company. First of all, tremendous supporters of your Tennessee baseball Vols. You will see Jim Peters. You will see Kevin Herman. You will see those folks at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, rain, sleet, or snow. But the important thing is TLD Logistics does everything. Whatever your challenges are relating to shipping, you reach out to them. They're going to take care of you. They even helped out the recent Super Bowl, trucking something across the country to them. They can do it for you. And if you are wanting to become an owner-operator, do we ever have an opportunity for you? Check out tldlogistics.com for more information. Also presented by our friends at Simpson's Meats. Simpson's Meats raises and sources their meat on farms, on pasture, on purpose, comfortably continuing a tradition that began in 1888 on Jim Simpson's farm. I'm talking about a beef brand built on quality. I'm talking about, you're going to pay a little more, but you're going to get what you pay for and then some. Steaks, burgers, sausages, roast, chicken. They also have a variety of local offerings at their butcher shop, from milk to honey to jams to eggs. You name it, they've got it. Stop by and taste the best from the Tennessee community. And if you want to buy in bulk, they sell half and quarter cows as well. Steaks make a great gift. Gift boxes available. Ship premium meats anywhere in the world at simpsonsmeats.com. Visit their store in West Knoxville off Level Road and shop there today. Also presented by our friends at Connexial, Knoxville's own transportation and logistics tech company, proud sponsor of the My20 Drive of the Game right here on Garza Law Extra Innings, revolutionizing your trucking industry nationwide. We want your fleet to be more efficient, our drivers and roads safer. We all want that. Take control of your fleet, improve your safety scores, make drivers happy. KONEXIAL.com, KONEXIAL.com. And now, without further ado, let's get back to the action on our TLD Logistics phone lines. Light them up at 865-200-5402. It's Garza Law Extra Innings, and here's the superstar, Will Heflin.
Back with you on Extra Innings presented by Garza Law. We've got Matt Dixon, who likely just talked to Tony Vitello, so definitely want to get his thoughts and hear what Tony Vitello had to say after the game. But let's go back to the phones for just a second. Extra Innings, Garza Law, you're on the air.
Hey, Will, it's Andrew from Maryville.
Hey, Andrew. Good to talk to you.
Hey, you too, man. A little harder to be positive this week, but
yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
I will find some positives, though, at least. Maybe not quite for this season, but for the future. Well, I guess for this season. I think we see it every year that some of these middle-of-the-road SEC teams, which we kind of are at the moment, they get sent out on the road in these regionals, and they get out of the SEC, and it kind of benefits them to play some teams they can kind of out-talent. Like you said, we got guys throwing 100 that should be able to go in and shut them down, but they can't against these SEC hitters, but maybe we can when we get in a regional.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point for sure. Here's my thing is the expectation is not to beat upper tier ACC or Big 12 or even the best of the Sun Belt and Conference USA, which has a lot of good baseball. But, you've set the expectation because you won a national championship. So the expectation is you compete with the guys who are going to be in Omaha. And we've played, odds are we've played at least one or two teams that will be in Omaha, and that's where Tennessee wants to be. So, I'm always going to stack us up compared to those type teams, and because of our talent level and the recruits that they have, that's how it should be. But you're right. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all if they did end up going on the road and hammered somebody in a regional. But you're probably unless you just kind of get a lucky draw, you're probably going to get an SEC team in Supers. There's 13 that are going to make the field probably, so odds are you're going to have to face one of them and beat them twice to get to Omaha. Or if you don't see them in Supers, you're going to see them for game one of Omaha. The only reason Tennessee didn't last year is because, Evansville was able to upset ECU and Wake Forest, and then, you faced a basically an SEC team in Florida State, and you were the number 1 seed, so you were supposed to get a better draw. But you're not going to be the number 1 seed this year, and so Tennessee will likely, even if they end up hosting a regional, they may have to go on the road for supers unless they win these last 2 series or make a deep run in Hoover. But, the one bright spot I'll touch on is Levi Clark was in there all 3 games this weekend and looked good. Swung the bat well, hit some balls hard. That's a guy that you might as well just leave in and let him run, let him grow.
Yeah, I think this weekend was probably a sign from that Vitella knows we got to get some consistency, because I think we had the same lineup all 3 games. Is that right? I think we had the same all 3.
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, hopefully getting some consistency there. I just think this might be our 2023 year where, that year we took a lot of lumps. That was, Moore, Burt, Dreiling, Tears. That was their first year really getting to play, and they weren't very good. And then the next year, once they'd had some experience, they took off. So hopefully that's kind of what we see next year from Clark and Aaron and Newstrom and those guys. That this might just be a little bit of a rebuilding year. It's not the standard, but it just might be the reality.
I hear you. Well, Andrew, thanks so much for the call, man. Call me back next week, will you?
All right. See you, man.
All right, dude. See you. Matt Dixon, he's here with us. Matt, you just talked to Tony Vitello, didn't you? What'd he have to say?
Well, the most interesting thing is that Liam Doyle was actually ejected from that middle game there, which means he has. But the good news is, since he entered the game as a reliever, he only has a 2-game suspension, which was the second game today and will be Tuesday's midweek game, which he was never going to pitch in. But
I was thinking he may have gotten ejected. That is hilarious.
Their entire team left the dugout, which at least last year that was an automatic ejection. But
well, here I am talking in my living room like, hey, they handled that thing good. It was a little chippy, but they didn't hold up the game too much. They just kind of, because I knew as soon as Liam was the one covering home and caught the ball, and their guy kind of pulled up. Even if he hadn't pulled up, Liam would, if he would have tried to dive around him, Liam would have tagged him and stood over him. But I knew something was going to happen right there. Didn't you?
It certainly felt like it.
There were some magic words. So I get it, but that's kind of funny. I guess it's not funny, but I'm a little immature. What did Tony say?
I really didn't get to hear a bunch of it, to be honest with you, but that was kind of the main one. I was kind of blown away by that, which is just kind of comical, but just the forgettable weekend. Just brutal all around. Everything from starting the game Friday night to being non-competitive in another Sunday rubber game, which is really concerning. I don't know where you start. Well, I don't know what all you talked about, but I'm not sure this team's doing anything well right now. Everything's kind of bad, and then it just kind of multiplies on each other. And I think they're just in such a bad place mentally with, in the field, and I think it's carried over to some at-bats. You see guys taking a lot of pitches, a lot of strike 3 looking. Granted, we can talk about the strike zone in game 1, but I just think this team needs some kind of mental reset, and I don't know how you do that at this point in the season.
Well, I'm with you. I really didn't know where to start. And I don't disagree with you in that it's a forgettable weekend, but at this point, you can't just flush what's happened because it's happened too many times. So it has to be anything but forgettable, in my opinion. And we touched on the strikeouts looking. Had a caller bring that up, but I'm with you, man. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. There's too many things going on, and the team is too talented for me to just say they, to point to something and try to figure the thing out. There is a whole reset that needs to happen. You're exactly right. But Was Game 2 not like an opportunity for it to be that reset? Was that not a weird way to win? A close comeback, a walk-off? How are you so flat after that?
It was a great point. I will say, I thought Tennessee kind of celebrated a little too much after that. It felt like that was kind of an odd thing to mob, Newstrom, rip his jersey off and whatever in the outfit. I thought they celebrated a little too much, which I didn't like with a doubleheader coming up. But to win the way you did and have the stuff there at to get out of that jam in the top of the 11th and then walk it off with all that energy, and then you just come out completely flat again and are non-competitive in a game. It just really, really disappointing. I don't know where this team gets that juice from, because they obviously don't have like an emotional leader on the team, besides maybe Doyle in his starts. But it's just I don't know. It's really weird. Vitello probably needed to get ejected a lot earlier in that game 3.
Yeah, he started making those rounds, and I was like, about time, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he's been pretty mild. Him and Frank both the last couple of years have really toned it down, and it seems like the team's followed that lead maybe a little too much this year.
Yeah, maybe a little too much. I mean, he went to all 4 guys, but I thought the best part of that deal was he was going to the second base umpire, who was game 1's behind the plate, and basically imitated Auburn's catcher and catching one way outside and then yanking it back over the plate. That was the best part of the performance, I'll say, from Tony Vitello. But yeah, I think at that point, A, he's tired of watching it because he's probably disgusted with his team, and B, a lot of built-up frustration. I'll say this last thing about the umpires, because I said when I got on I wasn't going to harp on it. They're horrible across the league. They were terrible in the A&M LSU series, which should be a phenomenal series, but they've taken away from that. Tennessee is the only team that I watch, and I watch everybody, Matt. That Texas-Arkansas series was phenomenal, by the way. It was phenomenal for Arkansas, but that environment was crazy. Tennessee is the only team that consistently gets jobbed at home. Consistently fighting the umpires at home. Borderline calls, rarely in favor of the Vols. In Lindsey Nelson, which is atrocious. And I'm not trying to be a homer and be, being a crybaby, because we go on the road and we get jobbed a little bit at LSU. Fine. You're at home. You should get the benefit of the doubt. Now, it can't be egregious, but borderline calls, I am okay with not getting more of them than we don't. More of them than we do when we're on the road. But Tennessee consistently, Sam Dutton's strike zone was a mile wide. I could go out there right now and get guys out with that kind of strike zone. I mean, he was consistently throwing the ball in the other box and getting strike calls. I mean, Dean Curley got absolutely screwed. And I'm just sick of that. That is pathetic. And you want to know the problem, Matt? With SEC umpiring and officiating, it's like this probably in every sport, but I'll just speak for baseball. I played in the deal. 4 years plus a COVID year. I was around the game in the SEC for 5 calendar years, which is like well over 1,500 days. And I left having zero clue of how to get into umpiring, if that was something that I wanted to do. How is that possible that guys that play the game and would naturally make the best umpires and referees and officials have zero clue how to get into the deal when their playing careers are over? That's the problem to me, is you've got too many guys that didn't play at that level, and some of them had, and some of them probably played much at a higher level than I did. And so I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just speaking as a collective. You can tell that they just haven't played in those type of environments. And so how are you supposed to officiate it in those type of environments? So that's my rant on the umpires. Listen, I'm not trying to kick them. It's a hard job. Guys are throwing hard. Plays are close, but you've got review to bail you out on some of them that you miss. But they just consistently they can't navigate the emotions of it. Both teams end up mad at them, which is when you know it's a real problem. And there's just not an avenue to recruit better ones and make it a merit-based system. I mean, there's just no accountability, which is always a problem. But I mean, do you have anything to add there, Matt, or was that too harsh?
It's a really good point because you see it in the postseason a lot. They'll bring these West Coast crews that aren't used to hostile environments and put them, I think, like Clemson like last year.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Tennessee Notre Dame one got out of hand early, and so they bring these crews in, and they're not ready for those spots, and it does create, it's just not a great playing field for the players, and in the biggest games of their seasons, they're playing on edge, and they can't be themselves because they're being overly officiated by umpires. I don't know what Tennessee can do about it. Like from your perspective, like did you and Frank ever talk like after a couple of innings about what the strike zone was that day and how you adjust to it? Like how much does that go on in the dugout? Because Tennessee never adjusted in game one. And granted, I mean the guy was getting, if it was above the feet, it was going to be called a strike, and he was giving a ball off both corners and against a ground ball pitcher. I don't know really what you're supposed to do there, but how at some point Tennessee has to adjust to it, even though that may mean taking some really bad swings.
Yeah, as a pitcher, well, for one, I thought the zone while Tennessee was pitching was fair, which is the problem. It was fair while Tennessee was pitching, and it was massive when they were hitting, which is the problem. But as a hitter, you cannot adjust to it. You cannot, in split seconds, say, "Oh, this is a ball, but this guy back there stinks. I'm going to swing at it." That's just not. That's not possible. So I don't know how they fix that. Whether Frank and Tony have to start trying to suck up to these guys or what the problem is there, but it's frustrating, and you just want it to be called fair. And if the zone's going to be big for their guy, it needs to be just as big for our guy, because the hitters aren't going to be able to adjust in the middle of the game. Maybe if it's not egregious, but man, those were egregious. They were way out of the zone and down and out, and it just at that point they had already chirped, and it became kind of a it was clear that he knew they were balls, and he was just calling them strikes out of spite. And so that's the most frustrating part of it. But we're going to take one more quick break. Feel free to call us, TLD Logistics Hotline, 865-200-5402. This is Extra Innings on Garza Law. When we get back, Matt, we're going to touch around the league. And then Tennessee's no time to feel sorry for yourself. You've got Vanderbilt coming in next weekend, who is currently down in their rubber game at home against Bama. But we'll talk about that, what they need to do, Matt, where they need to go. If you got any bright ideas, feel free to call us, TLD Logistics Hotline. It's 865-200-5402. Be right back.
We'll get you back to Garza Law, Extra Innings, momentarily. I do want to remind you, portions presented by our friends at Performance Medicine. Take control of your wellness, personalized health solutions that fit your lifestyle. You will be so glad that you got out of the rat race and the way you understand healthcare right now, because that's exactly what Dr. Rogers did several years ago. Comprehensive, proactive solutions empowering you to achieve optimal health on your term. If you're tired of feeling drained of energy, you're struggling with your weight goals, maybe you dream of radiant skin, maybe you're hoping to start a family, say goodbye to cookie cutter healthcare. PerformanceMedicine.net for more. Check out out their YouTube channel at Performance Medicine. Also presented by our friends, my friends and your friends at Alumni Hall. Listen up, baseball fans. Step up to the plate. New gear from Alumni Hall. Don't you dare swing and miss by shopping elsewhere. Alumni Hall absolutely has you covered. You can shop in their 3 Knoxville locations where you'll see the best selection, the top brands for you to choose from all season long. They also have a shop in Bristol, one in Murfreesboro, and for you listening to us around the world, they're online anywhere in the world and available to you at alumnihall.com. The ultimate Tennessee shopping destination is Alumni Hall. And a special shout out to our friends at Dos Equis. Celebrate another successful Tennessee baseball run all season long by going for Dos, Tony Vols. I'm talking about Dos Equis. Lager Especial, a golden Pilsner stout made from the choice of hops, balanced composition, smooth, clean finish. Party guest always invited, never overstays his welcome. Nuanced blend of malts and earth tones, flavorful yet light tasting and smooth. Balanced composition, clean finish. That, my friends, is Dos Equis Cervezas Mexicanas 2025, White Plains, New York. Now let's burn up those TLD Logistics phone lines and get you back to the superstar. I'm talking about the host with the most. I'm talking about superstar Will Heflin. It's Garza Law, extra innings, Tennessee baseball style. Hit it, Will. We'll get you back to Garza Law, extra innings moment.
I knew I'd mess up at least one time, Matt. Restarted the commercial break. But we were kind of talking off air. The home run power is completely gone. TLD Logistics Hotline, 865-200-5402. I got lines open, so feel free to call me. If you don't, I'm not going to be offended. I wouldn't want to talk about this crap either. But if you need to get something off your chest, feel free, because that stunk. Garza Law, extra innings. You were on the air.
How you doing, Will? How you doing, man?
I've been better.
Hang in there. Hang in there.
I'm just kidding.
Sun's going to come up tomorrow. All good.
It is. Hey, sun is going to come up tomorrow. Go ahead.
All good. Hey, I'm a little frustrated, and I need some insight from you. I didn't get to watch all this weekend, but looking back, I'm glad we won one game, quite honestly. I have no idea how we won that game yesterday. It was continued today. I don't understand how in the 11th inning, the kid's still second or still third with a left-handed batter in the dish. Why are we giving bases away? I don't understand. They did it all weekend. I just think we were fortunate to get away with one win this weekend, quite honestly.
We were. We got outplayed all 3 games. Well, we did.
What is? I understand as far as staying focused on the batter and this, that, but why are we not throwing down to third in the 11th? Are you afraid he's going to throw it in the outfield?
Yeah.
Like you're in Little League?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
Don't give up.
I wish I had a better answer for you. Yeah. Yeah, you are. And the shortstop and second baseman are back because you don't want to let a ball through the infield, so you're not really holding him. And he kind of got a shuffle lead off of Doyle to where he was already moving towards third when Doyle went to home. So, there could have been nobody in the box. He would have been safe.
I get it, but why do you play your third baseman back when you got a runner, he's in scoring position? I don't know. It's maddening to me to watch people just take 3 bases and 3 bases and 3 bases. And it's always been the case, and I get it, but it's just frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I'll say this. I don't really mind giving up third with 2 outs, especially when you have 2 strikes, because a base hit with 2 outs, he's probably stealing anyway or scoring anyways on a base hit, unless it's just smoked right at Chapman, who's got the best arm of the 3 outfielders. So that one's not as big of a deal to me, but I don't really ever like giving up second. unless there's already somebody on third or that. I'm just saying runner on first only. I just, it takes a lot more to score from first than it does from second. Especially, even with 2 outs, now a base hit scores, where if he's at first, it would take 2 base hits with 2 outs. But, I think that's just one of the microcosms of the bigger problem, in that a lot of little things in baseball add up to big things, Matt. And you've got to be better at all of them. I think the most, I guess the positive, if you want to take a positive out of this, is that there's literally not one thing you can point at and be like, oh yeah, this is the problem, clean this up, we'll be better. Like, everything stunk today in Game 3 and for most of the weekend. Pitching wasn't good enough. Hitting, not good enough. We're not hitting with 2 outs. Left, 25 runners on base or whatever it was. Looking at strike 3 too much. Whether it was in, off the plate, or too far away. I'll excuse some of them, but when you strike out looking, probably north of 10 times, it's just too much. You're not playing catch in the field. You're not playing catch from the mound. Too many free bases on the mound.
You run into outs on the bases.
Literally every aspect of the game, Matt, is not good. And that makes me think that there's got to be a non-technical baseball answer to fix everything, because they're too good, talent-wise, and we've seen them play high-level baseball. It's not like they were just running through Missouri early part of the SEC schedule. They got a series win against Alabama. They swept South Carolina on the road, and that was before South Carolina had kind of thrown in the towel. They were competitive. They swept Florida, who's, probably going to get into the tournament and be a real problem for everybody. Like, Ole Miss is a very competitive team. They're in a rubber match on the road at Oklahoma. Like, they have good series wins. And you outplayed LSU last weekend. That is what's weird. It's like, you lost last weekend, and it was really frustrating, but you were like, you know what? We really outplayed them. Should have won the series. We should not have won this series, and we didn't. That's what's frustrating.
Tennessee never led in this series. I mean, the only time they had a lead was when they walked it off in Game 2. Literally, Auburn had the lead the whole time.
That's not a good stat, Matt. You shouldn't have told me that.
I mean, it's just, they jumped on them early, starting Friday. Friday in the downpour monsoon, which was one of the dumber decisions you'll see to start that game. There's that just got everything off to an awful start. You were lucky you could salvage Doyle there to win Game 2, and I thought he was pretty good. But I don't know, the stuff about the bases and then giving up free passes, like that hadn't beat past teams because they could overcome it by scoring a lot of runs or just getting guys out,
striking guys out.
But this team in particular, the command isn't as good as previous teams. There's a bunch of wild pitches or pass balls. And then balls are just, especially in the bullpen, you don't have strikeout guys, so the ball's always getting put in play, which every time there's a ball in play in the infield, I think we all are kind of cringing a little bit, waiting for something to go wrong there. So all that kind of adds up to you're giving up a couple of extra runs a game, and those are runs this team can't afford to give up because, another one, the home run power has just kind of disappeared here the last 3 or 4 series. I think they only have 32 home runs in 24 SEC games. A lot of wall scrapers here the last 2 or 3 weekends, but I mean, and that's what they've lived on for 5 years, going back to when you were there, Will. That there's that correlation between hitting home runs and winning and getting to Omaha, and this team, the power numbers have just nosedived here recently, and I don't know. It seems like guys are thinking too much at the plate. Because they just take too many pitches now. Like even Keelan, it feels like he's not seeing it well right now. And you almost always got great at bats out of him. But I don't know if they're overloaded with analytics right now, trying to do too much, or what it is. But I don't know. I mean, Bargo was good this weekend, obviously, but that's Inslee keeps coming through in the clutch, but he's kind of done that all year. But most everybody else, you're just you're not stringing together quality at bats.
Yeah, Peebles has hit it hard a lot, but your two strikeout guys are starters. Your Friday guy and Saturday guy are your best two strikeout guys, and they're starting games. But it is ironic that we're sitting here saying, we're not striking guys out of the bullpen when the two main righties that we use have both hit triple digits, and we can't strike anybody out. That's who the best strikeout guy is in the bullpen right now, and they don't trust him. But you know who it is? Arvidsson.
I was surprised they didn't go to him with the bases loaded and those lefties coming up today. I mean, that would have been a big spot for him, but putting Snead in there, I mean, that almost guarantees Auburn was scoring at least 2 because there's going to be 3 balls in play.
Yeah, you're right. Let's go back to the phones.
Not that mattered. It was just a minor deal, and it didn't really affect who won or lost, but that was an interesting
that whole
decision.
Things happen in a vacuum deal. You come in, strike a couple guys out, you never know. But extra innings, you're on the air.
Hey, guys, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
If you look at our schedule, who have we actually beaten?
Florida, Ole Miss, Bama.
Yeah, but I mean, have we beat any elite teams?
I don't know that we've played an elite team yet.
Yeah, we did. LSU, I'm talking about top 5 team.
Nah, they just lost the series at A&M.
Well, I think Tony's got to do some his shuffling. I don't like Keelan batting leadoff. I don't think he had that great a weekend either. I don't think ever since they started him leadoff, I don't think he's been hitting as well. So that whole leadoff position has just been a kind of I don't know, because Curley's he can't be your leadoff hitter. He's just struggling so much.
Matt, who should we throw in at leadoff? I got a guy in mind.
I don't know, because it does feel like Keelan wasn't comfortable there, but
I got an outside the box guy in mind. Can you guess? Dave, who would you put at leadoff?
You really want to know?
Mm-hmm.
And I would have kept him in the lineup from the beginning of the year to now, and that was Abernathy. And the only reason I say that is because he knows how to work a count. That guy is good at getting walks, and he has some speed. I'm not saying he's the greatest base stealer right now, but he's got potential to be. I would have played him. I never would have taken him out of the lineup. Abernathy.
He definitely makes sense.
The oddest thing, because his stats are not bad, and he just was playing against good teams and producing and getting on base, and then he just disappeared.
Yeah, I think he had a tough weekend, Matt. A couple where he started 2 games and maybe didn't do much, and then Newstrom was hot. And so, that's kind of been the deal the whole year is they've rotated. Some of those young guys have been in and out. But, nobody'd call you crazy for wanting to lead off Abernathy. He's definitely going to be your leadoff in the future.
And he's a better left fielder than anybody else we can put out there.
Well, he's probably, wherever you put him, he's going to be one of your best defensive options. But you know who I'd start at leadoff? I'd just try it and see what happens. Cannon Peebles. He's a switch hitter, so you can't match up, or you're always going to have a good matchup. First AB of the game. He's kind of got that knack for working counts, and he's been hammering balls lately. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but maybe I'm just a Peebles super fan.
He's got 10 homers now.
But
especially from the right side.
Yeah. I mean, he's got 2 of your last 3 SEC homers. He had 1 in Baton Rouge. He had 1 today. I know it was kind of, the game was already decided by that point, but he hit 1.
And the thing with Curley is he didn't have to be good last year. He was okay last year. I mean, he hit 290. He played a decent shortstop, but he didn't have to be spectacular. You could hide him down the eight hole, seventh, or whatever he batted. He batted lower in the lineup, and he just kind of did his thing. Got some good base hits in the College World Series and hit for a decent average. Didn't have as many errors as he has this year, but you had a team. You had so many stars on that team that nobody really paid him much attention. And now he's one of your main dudes, and it hasn't gone well. But who do you see as a starting pitcher from the guys on this staff right now coming back next year and being your Friday night starter?
Next year's Friday night starter?
Yeah, is it on the roster right now?
Yeah, it definitely could be. I think Krenzel and Tegan Coons have to be in that discussion. You're going to get Anson Seibert back from injury. He was a big-time prospect coming in. They've done really well in the portal. I mean, they went and got Doyle this year to be a starter. And then you think about the jump that Phillips made this year. So maybe there's a guy like that in Arvidsson or I wouldn't mind seeing Dylan Lloyd transition to be a starter next year. I think you got a lot of options there. I mean, here's the thing. Looking at this team on paper, there are no problems. That's the problem. It's like they look so good on paper and they're so talented. And, this time a month ago, we were sitting at number 1 in the country and, it wasn't always, super clean, but gosh, they were winning and they were just kind of doing their thing. And now it's just like feels completely off the rails, and so they need to figure it out quick for sure. But Dave, I appreciate the call as always, man. Let's go to our next caller. This is Extra Innings presented by Garza Law. You're on the air.
Hey guys, this is another Dave in Ackworth. How you doing today?
Hey Dave, thanks for the call. We're all right. How are you?
Hey. Doing well. Hey, you guys touched on it. Dave earlier kind of went down a little bit of the path I was going on as far as who we've beaten. Mm-hmm. I think this year, unlike previous years where it probably didn't really matter who we played, I think this team was in need of some really good competition prior to the SEC season. Go play a weekend series at a established program on the road. Have a midweek game with Clemson or Florida State, during the week. Not once the SEC season started. I'm not talking about those midweek games. Those games don't even matter. But before the season started, when we're playing the Sisters of the Poor, I think this team needed some competition. And to help identify some of these things that we're seeing and maybe address them a little bit earlier, because I think we all had a false sense of hope that this team was just going to roll like last year, and obviously that's not the case. And I think our youth is hurting us, this youth inexperience. I mean, I have to kind of remind myself that this entire roster has flipped from last year. I mean, it's to expect something similar, I think is pretty unrealistic in my mind. But I think these kids are playing to last year's expectations, and I think that's caused some of the issues that we've seen in the field with pitching, and I think obviously with hitting. I think those guys are feeling the pressure of not living up to the last 3 or 4 years and the teams from the last 3 or 4 years. What do you think about that?
You think it's weighing on them?
Yeah, I do.
That's certainly possible. And here's the thing about the non-conference schedule. I think you had Oklahoma State on there and Arizona, and Oklahoma State has turned out to not be as good of a opponent as you thought they would be, and then Arizona has played well, but when Tennessee played them, they started really slow, so they weren't what you're talking about. But
that tournament's not really what I'm talking about, because that's kind of a neutral site. It's almost you're playing in a major league baseball stadium. It's I don't equate that to the same as actually going to go play. I mean, heck, 3 or 4 years ago, we went and opened the season at Georgia Southern. Now, they're not world beaters, but dang, that's a good program. To start on the road, play a 3-game series down there, that's pretty awesome. We haven't done that lately, and I think this team could have used it. Last year's team didn't matter who you played. 22 team didn't really matter who you played. But this team could have really used some testing outside of that game down in Houston, that tournament in Houston. I don't equate those two the same.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference there. And that Georgia Southern series was my last year. That was a great place to go play a series. They got a good program down there, and they had a guy by the name of Chase Dolander, so actually turned out to be really good for Tennessee that they went down there and got to see him.
Bingo. Yes.
So maybe we schedule figure out who the best upcoming arm is at one of those programs for next year, and then it's kind of like a little recruiting visit and baseball series. I'm just kidding. No tampering going on around here. Dave, I appreciate your call, man.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, brother. Matt, that's a fair point. I think especially with the youth, it would have been good to play on the road. But I don't know that that's, applicable to this weekend just because, you're at home. You're struggling at home. So, but I think overall, just looking at the team in its totality, I don't think that's, a foul point to make. I think it's totally fair.
Yeah, probably so. Because it's weird. All these young guys, you got them a lot of at-bats early in the year, and it feels like, talked about Abernathy kind of barely. I think he pinch ran today, and that was his first appearance all weekend. Clark had a couple of weeks where he, didn't get off the bench. Marin's kind of been in and out of the lineup, and you didn't really develop any of these freshmen for these key roles, and now you're kind of in the biggest part of your schedule, and those guys are, struggling to stay above water right now and really struggling in against SEC pitching. So it's, I do think their weight, the weight of being the defending national champion is a weight on this team. Maybe it's not necessarily the players themselves, but their opponents always view them as that, and I think they do get most teams' best effort all weekend because you're never going to overlook Tennessee, obviously. So I do think that they get most teams' best punch, which is kind of a credit to where the program's at. But like the 23 team, I don't think this one has handled a lot of that adversity very well at all.
Yeah, definitely something to think about there. 23 team was following that 22 bunch that was just steamrolling everybody, and then 23 kind of had to find their own way, and definitely took some lumps along the way. So that's a good point. We'll take a couple more, Matt, and then we'll get out of here, man. I'm sick of talking about this, but at the end of the day, we love these guys, and there's still time to figure it out. So we'll see. Extra Innings, Garza Law, you are on the air.
Hey, it's Mark in Dallas.
Hey, Mark.
Thanks for doing this. You mentioned the home runs on offense being down, and I saw a stat. It might have been posted on a blog by Dixon, but I saw a stat somewhere just how far down our home runs are in SEC play, I guess, compared to prior seasons. The other thing that I think is just the biggest difference is since the A&M series, whatever we've tried on Sunday on the mound hasn't really given us a chance when you don't have last year's offense that can just put up 10 runs almost whenever you need it. Like every game, every week the only win we have on Sunday, going back to including A&M, is that shootout in Oxford. Every other game on Sunday's been, the third game since A&M every other week, it's been a loss. And I think that's the biggest difference in us losing all these series. I'm not a baseball player, but it's got to be hard coming into a three-game series feeling like you only really have a chance in two of the games. And like when A.J. Russell had 2 shutout innings to start today, I imagine that was uplifting. And, I think we almost scored in the second. And then as soon as the game started to get away in the third, as a fan, I felt like that game and that series was already over. Because we've seen that movie every week. As soon as we fall behind on Sunday, it's over. And so I don't know if the answer is that eventually AJ will be able to go longer. I've had plenty of like knee injuries, but I've never had Tommy John, so I don't know what it's like to come back from that. But if we need to try something else, like you mentioned earlier, when somebody asked about starting for next year, and you thought, well, maybe Dylan Loy, next year on the mound. LSU, in the third game against us, that Evans guy, I think he was one of their best relievers all season. Yeah, I just checked, and he had like half a dozen saves.
You're right.
I remember coming to that weekend that we were told that they had 2 relievers that were really good, and I want to say he was one of them.
You're right. He
and
was.
Then I just looked it up. That was his first start of the season.
It was.
And he went out there and creamed us. I mean, it probably, helped that, we fell behind 5-2 pretty early. And then I guess he kind of coasted. But, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The coaches and the trainers know the team better than I do. But do you consider trying to stretch out Dylan Loy to throw him out there on Sunday this season? With what's left of this season, that can, if it works, that also would create another hole in the bullpen. But still, we got to figure out something to give us a chance on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm always in favor of more Dylan Loy, but I'm just a Dylan Loy fan. Did you watch the SEC championship game last year?
Yeah, against LSU.
Yeah, I was just making sure you watched. Who started that game?
Oh, gosh, was that Loy? I'm guessing it was a bullpen game because that was probably our
it was Loy.
fourth or fifth game of the week.
It was Loy, and he absolutely shoved. I think he gave him like 75, 80 pitches, got into the 5th. It was a big-time outing for Loy. And so he's certainly capable, but you want to talk about, I mean, he's really the only lefty that they trust out of the bullpen, so...
Yeah,
you take him out of the bullpen. Yeah, you've now put Russell in there, and that puts Coons at more of a, you can use him however you want. I know this weekend was a weird scenario, but normally they'll probably save him for Sunday to kind of piggyback Russell. But then the only lefties you're left with in the pen, Arvidsson would probably be your most trusted at that point, and then it's Sharman or Binky who they haven't trusted. And I'm not saying those 2 guys couldn't do it. I mean, Binky showed a lot of promise last year as a freshman, but he had a little nagging injury to start this year and just kind of got off to a slow start and just hasn't been quite as effective. And Sharman's trying to, work his way into that conference rotation to at least, come in and get a lefty. They tried it. I think it was McMurray in game 1, and I think he walked him on 4 straight, and that was the only batter he saw. So if you move Lloyd to Sunday, which I'm totally fine with, he'd be great at it. I just don't know that you can do that because that puts your pen in a really tough spot.
Yeah, it might fix one problem while creating another problem. But they got to figure out something on Sunday, and if that's the best option, I mean, it feels like we get up on Sunday, and if we fall behind 2-0, the game's over. So I mean, we got to figure out something for Sunday. And on AJ, from listening to these shows and some of Tony's shows, it sounded like it sounded like the expectation, and maybe the difference is because none of us are in the dugout. I thought the expectation was that was hoping to get a couple innings out of AJ to start games, and that's what we were going to live with coming off of Tommy John. Mm-hmm. But seeing it in practice, it feels like the goal is to get like a normal start, and they're just taking him out when it's not working out. I mean,
Well, if he was,
I don't know
if
if the
he was
answer is
built
that
up,
he should be taken out after 2, or if that's just something you can't do when he's in. I think he's draft eligible.
Yeah, it's really all pitch count right now, and so LSU and today, that's kind of where it fell. I think they were really hoping, just because the first 2 innings he was at like 35, or maybe 30, but he hadn't faced much stress. So I think they were going to push him, another 15 maybe, get it over 40, and then he gives up 3 straight hits, and it's just like you got to do it now. Like it's stressful situation, bases are loaded, he's not fully built up. But I think the plan is going to be continue to gradually increase, and how slow is that gradual increase? Probably pretty slow. I don't know that he'll ever get to where they think they can get a full start out of him this year, and I'm fine with that. I had Tommy John. There's no reason to push it with the caliber of arm he is. If you would have told me, 2 months ago, hey, you're going to have Russell on Sundays and he can get you 4 innings tops as the Game 3 starter, I would have said, where do I sign? Immediately. So I think we're on that track. It's just these first 2 haven't played out, and this may be me being a salty pitcher. 1 run, 2 run, 3 runs on a Sunday is never going to cut it. I don't care who you have on the mound. You have to be willing to win the type of game they won at Oxford every single week on Sunday. A lot of the blame has to go to the offense because it is the 3rd game of the series. All of the hitters have had the most repetitions. Okay, they know how they're being attacked. That's their 3rd game in that ballpark. There's a lot of factors that go into it on a Sunday that make it more high scoring. The totals, not to make this a betting show, but totals are highest on Sundays. And that is just basic logic. And, most of the time it plays out that way, but Tennessee has just not shown up offensively on Sundays. And they've got to be able to put more pressure on early, maybe scratch a few across like they did in LSU, but keep that pressure on, get to those deep parts of the bullpen so that you can put up the crooked number like you did against Florida on Sunday, like you did against Alabama on Sunday, like you did against Ole Miss on Sunday. You have got to stay in that fight. Like 3 runs in the 3rd against Tennessee on a Sunday has never just been the death sentence. But I'm with you. Today when they scored 3 runs, I was like, yeah, nah. We didn't carry over the momentum. Oh well. And that's a problem. That's the real problem, is when you and I are sitting there watching it and we're down 3-0, and I know it was a 7-inning game, but I kind of felt it at LSU when we were down 5-2 in the 3rd inning or whatever it was. That is a problem that we're like, yeah, we lost. That's a real problem.
Yeah, and I was putting it on. I mean, I was saying that when we fall behind, it's deflating, because I feel like it gets in their heads that, here's another Sunday when there's not going to be enough pitching. But to what you were saying, like, that kind of goes both ways, is you also might have pitchers on the mound feeling like, I've got to pitch like Doyle for us to be in this game because I'm only going to get, a few runs. So that kind of cuts both ways, I guess.
No doubt. Well, man, I really appreciate the call. Matt, let's wrap this thing up and get out of here. I'm sick of talking about it, but I appreciate you hopping on a ton. This sucks, but unless something crazy happens in Nashville, Vanderbilt's going to come in to Tennessee, or come in Knoxville next weekend, having lost back-to-back series. They lost 2 out of 3 at Ole Miss last weekend, and they're about to lose 2 out of 3 at home to Alabama to drop to 13-11 in conference. Tennessee still has a top 4 spot for Hoover staring right back at them. But you got to win the next series, and you probably have to win at least one at Arkansas. I mean, is it good that we're playing Vanderbilt next weekend? You kind of get, that rivalry to maybe. I just want to see some fight, man. Like, why has that? One thing I thought we would never, ever, 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 ever have to worry about with a Tony Vitello-led team is fight. Even my little crappy 2018 team, we didn't know how to win. He was trying to get his recruits in. You know, we had some talented kids on that team, don't get me wrong, but the program just wasn't there yet, depth-wise, and, you know, knowing what it takes to go work through an SEC schedule. That team even had some games where we may not have won, but we were in them way longer than we should have been. And ever since that year, you've just never, ever, ever felt like watching a Tennessee baseball team that the game was over until the umpires left the field. And it just hasn't felt that way for Tennessee the last couple weeks. So I'll let you, kind of sum it up with your last thoughts.
That team had Garrett Crochet on it, who took another line drive to the face today, and I think stayed in the game. Did you see that?
Clipped his nose. He got extremely lucky. That was 19, by the way, that he took one off the jaw and then turned around and gave us a good outing against UNC Wilmington at Chapel Hill for that 2019 team, extended the season. Now, we scored 14 runs that game. That helped. But he gave a phenomenal outing, and yours truly got a mop-up inning in that one as well.
That team had 15 years.
That team had Crochet. We had Garrett Stallings, who was an absolute bulldog. Andre Lipsius, who's been to the big leagues. And that team was kind of, we were taking on the personality of our fiery young head coach. But I think this team needs a little bit more fire. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, they do. The last time Vandy came to Lindsey Nelson, Tennessee had just gotten swept by Arkansas in Fayetteville. That season was kind of on the rails, and you were getting beat that entire game. And I think was Dylan Dreiling and Kabar's Tears hit back-to-back home runs in the bottom of the ninth to force extras, and then I think Griffin Merritt walked it off, and you wound up sweeping Vandy, and that totally turned that season around. This season started off well, but maybe getting Vandy here at home can energize this team like it did 2 years ago. At least that's the hope, because you're kind of teetering on, we've talked about being a top 8 national seed. You've got to make sure you win some games here down the stretch, so you're hosting a regional.
Yeah, 16 I think gets you there probably.
4 wins the rest of the way in league play feels not impossible, but feels very uphill. But you definitely need to at least win at 3. I mean, can you go 500 the rest of the way? I mean, I'd probably take that right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, 3 gets you to 17. You're definitely hosting a regional, winning 17 games in the league, because Tennessee didn't have the Missouri buffer in their schedule as well. So 17 definitely hosts a regional. You've probably got to win 4 and get to 18 if you want to host a super or be a top 8 seed. You could still technically host a super depending on who won the regional across from you, but for all intents and purposes, you're probably looking at going on the road at least once on your way to Omaha if you were to get there, unless you win these next 2 series or sweep one and get 1 win in the other. But you're not sweeping Arkansas on the road. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. I don't think that's crazy talk to say that they can't sweep Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas just
I just hope they win a game out there.
Yeah, they just swept number 1 Texas, and only one of the games was even competitive. So Arkansas, they just lost 4 straight and then swept number 1 Texas at home. So maybe we need to call Dave Van Horn and say, hey, what'd you say to these boys? Because you lost 4 straight series and then you played really, really well. What'd you feed them? Not that I want advice from him or Tony needs advice from him, but maybe that was just a bad joke, Matt.
No, they need something right now. Obviously, I'm not sure who can provide that, but they need something. Like I guess it's got to come from somebody in the locker room.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Tony finally kind of erupt there today. Maybe something happens in the locker room that can bring these guys together, or at least make a point. And I think some scuffling, a little fight in between the family, not like actually getting a fight, but just some guys having honest conversations with each other, and trying to move forward, because Vanderbilt's going to come in and play, their style of baseball against you, which can be extremely frustrating if you let it. But Matt, thank you so much for your time, man. Again, this is Extra Innings presented by Garza Law. We're live after every SEC series finale. If you tuned in today, greatly appreciate it. Please tell someone you know and care for to join us as well. Or if you don't like the show, tell somebody you don't care for. But either way, tell somebody. I'm VFL Will Heflin. I'm with VIP Play. That launches Wednesday. Code TNVIPS will get you an early welcome bonus. Bet 5, get 100 in free bets. Got to be in Tennessee, 21 or older. All that good stuff. Thank you so much to Tony Basilio for letting me hang out in the Ray Mears studio. He's been phenomenal to me. He will be back 11 to 1 as always. He'll probably have some interesting comments. I can't wait to hear what he has to say tomorrow about this series. But he's doing something with taking care of some things this evening. He's fine, but kind of funny. I'll just leave it at that. Again, I'm Will Heflin. This kind of stunk, but still right there in front of him. I know he said it last week. He lost another series, but it's still not over. So thanks for everybody tuning in. I'll be back with you next week. Good, bad, or in between. It kind of stinks that as soon as this show started and I started coming over here doing this, that things have went off the rails a little bit. But maybe that just means it's going to be fun down the stretch. I'd rather struggle now than struggle at the end of this month and early June. And if they do, then we won't be doing it that much longer. So we'll just have to see what happens. But everyone enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a good week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
A lot of these schools are spending like drunken sailors right now in all these sports.